Welcome to the Brie Pod. I'm here with Ashley Benitez, certified postpartum doula and certified pediatrics sleep consultant. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me today. When I saw what you do for women and for mothers, I felt very attracted to learning more about what you do as a doula. And so I had to have you come on here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I love that you create this safe space for women as well.
Thank you. So I wanted you to share with listeners what is the background on you? How did you get into becoming a doula?
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I'm Ashley Benitez, as she mentioned, and I'm a wife and mama to a 1.5-year-old and then a 14-year-old stepchild. And I became a postpartum doula a few years ago and recently started my pediatric sleep coaching. But after having a child of my own, it was really eye-opening and actually made me realize that there's a large expanse of what a doula actually has to offer. And once becoming a mom myself, it was really a beautiful transition into how I actually have changed working with moms now because I know it firsthand. So it's been a brand new adventure for me and a change in my own identity as a doula and a mother. And then I'm founder and owner of Your Devoted Doula and Happy Snoozers, which is my sleep coaching.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And I love that you are bringing your experience in because I think that that's a huge help for women that are, having children and everything. So thank you for going
Yeah,
into that.
thank you. Yeah, so one of the things I have really experienced myself and something I see and we can kind of dive into is identity and motherhood. And becoming a new parent is hard. We know this. We're sleep deprived, there's the diapers, there's the emotional and physical toll of recovery and surviving the fourth trimester. But what is often overlooked is our identity and how it's shifted and shaped postpartum. And so, what I see a lot, especially in a lot of my career-oriented mothers, is it becomes a little jumbled, and we all kind of start feeling that our identity is really just surface motherhood, and all the other aspects of our identity are a little lost. But as we know, like individual identity is so complex, right? But when you become a new mother, it becomes very baby centric and like hyper focused on your role as a parent. So, but the reality is you're obviously much more than that. You're much
Yeah,
more than just a parent. And so, it's important that you learn to navigate this new, like, quote unquote, you and see where it fits into the old you. And
absolutely.
yeah, so what we do, the role of a parent is like just part of your identity, as I mentioned, but can oftentimes feel like it encompasses your whole identity all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Thus, it affects like every little specific part of you. So, like, if we're looking at whatever if we're looking at our bodies and how it's changed, or how we don't feel like it's ours anymore, or maybe, you know, we're solely just a feeding machine for this little human, and you're not comfortable in the new weight you have, or whatever. Like that whole identity of our autonomy of our body shifts. Careers, as a partner, as a friend, as even boy versus girl mom, like how we have to identify based on our societal expectations of children. So there's like so many, even identities that you relate to, like a writer, an athlete, or an artist, whatever you identify as. When it becomes so focused on one part, which is now parenthood, you kind of get lost. And so what we really want what I try to encourage is like finding where you fit in now in like yourself, right? And like how
Yeah.
to navigate, like I said, this new you and fit it into the old you. Because the reality is your identity has changed, but it doesn't have to change only like you don't only have to be viewed as a parent. You can still have all these amazing aspects of yourself, but like with parent added on, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I know with my friend who is mom of three boys, in the like during the process of having her children, she'd always be calling me and like she's like, "You're the only friend that still talks to me."
Oh,
And like I'm overwhelmed. And I totally get what you're saying, at least from a outsider's perspective, that you know, I can see how the blurred lines become between your identity as who you were, and then now as a parent, you feel like you need to be full-time
yeah,
mom. So I think it's beautiful that you help women uh, find themselves and know that you don't have to just be mom. You're still
right.
mom and yourself as well.
Yeah, and that's so important that you're there for your friend, you know, like as a new parent, you have to find your support group and your tribe and people you can rely on. And, you know, having a friend that's there for you is so valuable. And like sometimes you find out that like you don't vibe with certain friends anymore, and that's fine. Or like your role in a certain friend's life changes because you can't go out with them anymore. You can't be drinking with them or whatever, you know, changes and that dynamic changes, like your relationships change. Same with your partner, like it's a whole different dynamic. You have become from two to one or multiple, and that means you're spreading your energy, you know, thinner with each person. There's a whole dynamic that it's just not just you in a bubble anymore with your partner. It's you, your partner, and whatever life you bring into this life, you know.
Yeah.
And then when I think you know, quickly touched on like societal expectations of moms and like boy mom versus girl mom and what you're going to teach your boys and hopefully teach them really, you know, healthy masculine traits, opposed to like what you're going to teach your girls and how they, you know, survive in society and how men are going to, you know. And so it's like all of a sudden you have to learn what that means to your identity. If you're a boy mom or you're a girl mom, like what you want to instill in your children. And then you kind of have to look deep and see like what your main values and core beliefs are.
Yeah.
So there's like so much that goes into like this new identity because you're not a single individual anymore. You're shaping and teaching a new life, right? You're teaching your child and how to navigate this world. And that's really based on your moral, ethical values and how you're going to instill them in them. So, you know, when we're looking at societal expectations, you also have to be like a nurturer, like versus the sex kitten, right? Like women are so spread thin where women have to like as mothers be nurturers and be so present and there and caring. But on the other hand, like still have to snap back to the body they had before and you know, have like this sex appeal that they had before. But I mean, we just had a child, like, you know, like it's crazy how society expects this of women. And so like there's that push and pull too. And I mean, I could go so much into like that and like the super mom complex, you know, and women are expected to be so present and nurturing while fathers are really applauded for it, right?
Yeah.
So there's so many things that go into how we start shifting our identity and our sense of self.
Yeah.
And that's really how, you know, when I'm working with clients, I really want to bring that out. And, you know, of course, there's other things you can do to help learn to navigate this new sense of self. But one of the things I really express to parents as important, or emphasize as important, is to express like how you're feeling in that moment, how your day, even if you're having the worst day, like tell me about it. Tell me what's bothering you. Like, tell me what your partner did that's driving you crazy. Tell me what your toddler did. It's all about just like expressing and letting it out.
Yeah, I think that's very healthy because I know with the friends that I've had that have had children, the biggest thing that they always say to me is like, I feel like a bad mom for this, or I feel like a bad mom for thinking that. And I always tell them, I'm like, we're human.
Right.
It's okay to be human. You're not gonna like, it's not to say you don't love your child, but you're not gonna like some moments. They're not all gonna be that like rainbows and butterflies.
Totally.
So I think that people forget that you can be human. And just like when you were talking about our society with women, it's crazy how like when women are pregnant, they're like, oh, you look, they may say like, look, you're so beautiful, you're amazing. But then when you have the baby, I've noticed the after, like they're like, oh, now you're huge. When are you gonna lose it? It's very, it's so quick to go
Right.
back to being nasty about the body. So it's sad to see that. And you see it a lot with celebrities, especially
Mhm.
remember not Princess, but Duchess Kate. She literally has the baby and then comes out in a dress and heels. And you're like, what?
Right.
That's
Right. I
crazy.
mean, totally. Like these expectations that are pushed on women, that are just unrealistic. Like, who knows what type of Spanx she has underneath that dress, or like what type of surgery celebrities get, or like what type of trainers they're spending thousands of dollars on their trainers,
Mhm.
or and it's really hard because social media, like I think now it's becoming a little better where like social media is showing both sides really.
Yeah.
um but unfortunately we really have two opposing ways of talking about motherhood. It's like this unrealistic, idealistic, like kind of fantasy that we see on social media, and then postpartum depression, like overwhelming experience, right? So it's like there's that, definitely that dichotomy where it leaves women like really unable to articulate or understand their own experience, because they're either like, okay, I either have to be in this depressive, overwhelming state all the time, or I have to be like this unattainable, unrealistic version of motherhood, which we see on social media a lot. But like all the in betweens are kind of left out.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so, yeah, so it's hard. Like when we look at social media and we see these beautiful pictures of these like, gorgeous families, and you're like, how, I can't even get like enough sleep to want to shower. Like, how do these people have like all day photo shoots, right? Like, so it's really hard, and it's, I think it sets unrealistic expectations for new parents, whether mother, father, partner, whatever it is. Everybody's going through their own struggle. Everyone's experiencing it in a different reality, because reality is subjective, right? You could have two people in the same room experiencing or seeing the same thing, but their actual internal experiences would be different. So like it's hard to, like when I said there's like such a dichotomy, like it really is hard to know where you fit in between the two polar opposites.
Yeah. And with everybody, like, kind of, I don't want to say like yelling, but, it seems like with everybody being like, you have to do it this way, just like you're talking about between a boy mom and a girl mom. I'll
Mm-hmm.
never forget just going into a room and they're like, well, having girls are harder, having boys are easier, having, like they're always in some kind of like war
Totally.
or
Yeah.
fight. So,
It's because like everyone's experience is different. And I think it's so important to really place value on whatever experience it is, whether it's like potentially easy for the parent. Like what if they had a great sleeper right off the bat, and they had a successful breastfeeding journey, and they were able to get sleep at night, and they didn't have high stress levels. Awesome. And then there's these people over here that have the exact opposite. Like it's important that we value all the stories, because they're all realities of like certain individuals, right? And so I think one of the most damaging identities for, well, not identities, I would say projections of motherhood onto women would be the super mom complex. Like it's really like, I think it was supposed to be a positive, like, oh, she's a badass, she's, you know, she's doing all this, she's working plus juggling children, she's got her relationship with her partner on track, whatever it is, or she's a single mom and she's just doing it all. And it was essentially like a positive thing at first, but what I think it fails to acknowledge is like the need for help, right? And like having to do it all by yourself, which is so unfair. And like this super mom complex of like I said, oh, she's a badass, she's doing this, and this, checking her off her list, but like, how is she mentally? How is she like emotionally? You know, like, cool, she's like on the surface, like checking all the boxes and working so hard, but emotionally she might just be drained and like being torn apart, you know?
Yeah.
So I really
usually
think
they don't. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, usually they don't show that part either. Like the super moms they'll show you the good, but they don't show you that realistic behind the scenes because there's no way that I don't feel anyway from my own perspective, but there's no way that you can be on point with every single thing because balance truly does not exist really if you have work, home, I've never seen it balanced perfectly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's impossible. Like you just can't. And a person only has so much energy, you know, and when you're giving so much to everything else, when are you taking time to give it to yourself? And you know, what we see with super moms is like everybody like values this hustle culture that we live in. But it's okay to rest. It's okay to ask for help. It actually shows emotional intelligence to ask for help. I mean, the majority of moms I work with are like career, like driven, hardcore, you know, like working up the corporate ladder type women or like owning own businesses or whatever. But they know like it's time to ask for help and bring in when they can't do it all. And I think that shows a lot of emotional intelligence as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah. So there's just so much that we can dive into when we can't, you know, we look into identity as a mother. And something I really encourage people to is like sit and think about like what it means to be a mother, you know, or what part of the aspects of your identity and your characteristic, your personality characteristics that you love, like what can you do to bring those out, you know? And so I'd love to like kind of give some tips for advice for moms that are kind of going with this through this identity shift and struggle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So first and foremost, like I said, like ask for help. Ask for help. Ask a friend, a family member, come over. Like, I'm tired. I just need to shower and take a 2-hour nap. Like, or I just need to shower and go paint or go for a hike, whatever like brings you joy. Like ask for help so you can do that. And if you see that you're starting to have some postpartum, you know, mood disorders or anxiety or constant stress, like talk to a therapist, you know, talk to a professional and see what they can do to help you and kind of get out of that hormone. Because a lot of postpartum depression, you know, it affects so many women, but it's still not normalized. But really, like, it's your hormones. Like, you have no control over it, you know, and there's kind of like this taboo against like having postpartum mood disorders. But in reality, like, you have no control over it. So like normalizing that, talking to a professional, asking for help will always help while you're transitioning into your new role as parent. Taking care of yourself, which is also part of what I kind of touched on, like have you time, you know, have an hour or two just to sit outside, paint, draw, write, whatever you like to do that for yourself. And set simple goals, like set a goal for the day or the week and just get it done. Like my goal is I'm going to, take 2 naps this week, when we know that we push ourselves so hard, we don't typically take naps, but that's going to be my goal. And like set a goal, because sleep can change everything, right? Like we know this, like sleep is so important. So set simple goals, set a goal that you're going to get your manicure done like once a month, right? Or twice a month. Let's go big. Let's go twice a month,
Yeah.
right? And like just get it done. Do something for yourself, do something you enjoy, reconnect with family and friends, build that support group, join mom groups,
Yeah.
stop comparing yourself. There's so many things that we can do that will help when we're learning to navigate this new identity. And give yourself grace, really. Like, know it's a learning curve and things will change, and you'll learn how to move smoothly through it and love what you do, as long as you're able to understand that your identity is like full of so many different beautiful things, and this is just one part of it, right? And like there's so many facets that like you can grasp at, but just do that and live with what your choices are at the moment, and then move forward. And if you're like unhappy with how you reacted to your child, during a night of sleeplessness, the next day change what you do and move forward.
Yeah, I love all of the tips and advice that you give, because I think the biggest thing that I've always heard uh, from women and friends that have had children is that they always think that you know their pride and ego sometimes get in the way, and they're like, well, I can't ask for
Mm-hmm.
help because of whatever, or I'm a bad mom if I ask for help. So I'm very happy that you're talking about self-care, because I think we have to redefine what the real term of selfish is, because there's a huge difference between selfish and self-care. And self-care is okay, and you're not a bad mom if you take time for yourself. That's honestly
Totally.
the best thing, I think, for your child and for yourself, because you need, like, it's just like with everything, you've got that cup. And if your cup is, even if it's at least half full, there's something in there. But if you're just, you pour out your cup and you have nothing, you can't expect that you'll be able to give what you want to give. So self-care is so important.
Oh my gosh, that is such a good way to put it. I mean, that really is like, you can't just give something out of nothing, you have
Yeah.
to refill your cup too. I love that.
Yeah, and it's not selfish. I think that's so important for everyone to hear, because they always think that, oh, if I take care of myself, then I'm neglecting my child. And it's just like seeing on social media where people post like, oh, that mom over there is focusing on her phone and not her baby. It's like,
Right.
it's none of your business what she's doing. If
Right.
she's having a moment and she wants to scroll on Instagram for a moment, like, give her grace. I think as outsiders, we need to be more loving and giving moms grace, because they do a lot and are expected to do so many things. So
Right.
I totally,
I mean, I think you're a better parent if you practice self-care,
yeah.
because you're no longer at your limits. Like like you said, you're filling your cup so you have more to give. And like,
Mhm.
I don't think any parent who hasn't slept for a month and hasn't like done anything for themselves or like nurtured their soul is going to be a better parent than someone who, you know, I really don't think that that is going to be uh, a good, I don't want to say role model, but I don't think that's going to be a good situation for either parent or child. Like, I think what you're really going to run into is you're going to hit a wall and you're just going to be exhausted. And how do you parent when you're exhausted and you haven't filled your cup at all, right? Like I think it is so important. And I think that's a great thing you touched on is it's not selfish to practice self-care.
I agree. And I'm so grateful that you've have come on to share these tips, because I don't think that it's said enough. I think there's always the comments on like, oh, your children are beautiful. Um, but moms are not told enough, like, you're a great mom. You're doing the best you can.
Yeah.
You don't have to be perfect. Perfect does not exist. And I don't know why we think that that's the thing. Perfect doesn't exist. You're good,
Yeah.
mom, as is. And you're
I
learning.
love that. Totally. 100%.
So I did want to have you share for moms that have a loss of identity and are at their, like, you know, how do I say this? Like, at their, ends wits. You know what I mean? What advice would you give in the moment? Like, let's say they're like, you know what, I don't really have time to do what you're saying. How can they find time to or like, what's something simple that they could do in that moment?
I mean, I'm totally about breath work, just taking a minute, right? Like you're frustrated, you're tired, you're leaking milk out of your breast, you haven't showered for a few days. Like take a minute to yourself, like jump in the shower. Your baby's going to be okay. I promise. Like jump in the shower for a minute and like just and I hate that like showering is considered self-care because it's really not. Like that's like a right, like we should all be able to have the right to shower. Unfortunately, the fact as new parents, like we don't get that chance as much. So I don't want to put that in like the self-care category because I think that's like a right that every parent should have. Like, but if you need that moment of like just wake me up, like go splurge, buy yourself like a meal, like order in, have some cookies, do something that feeds your soul. Just even if it's simple, when the baby's taking a nap, don't do laundry, don't do the dishes, read a book, watch some TV, like I think it's important to know, like it's important to emphasize that we are always evolving as humans, right? And challenges really help us grow. And so yes, motherhood can be one of the biggest challenges and can be so exhausting, but know that you're just like, this is a huge part of your evolution.
Absolutely. I love that earlier you also shared that, um, you know, even if you have a bad day, um, you start over the next day. Like, there's going to be days that are not great, and there's going to be days that are beautiful. So I love that you're giving that realistic thing about being a mom. And I know that many women are going to benefit from this episode with you. And with that being said, where can they find you to learn more? And
Yeah, please, anyone who has any questions or want to know any more about what I do or how I can help moms, like, please give me a follow. You can find me on Instagram at mama.u.can. You can find me on Facebook at Your Devoted Doula. And then my website is www.yourdevoteddoula.com. And I'll give you all those so you can post them in the link below too.
yeah, that would be great. And before we go, I did want to touch a little base. I know that you also help with sleep training, I believe. So just a little bit about that. What is that?
Yeah, so what it really looks like is it's a virtual 2-week program, and I speak with the parents. I get to know the child. I customize the plan because it's not one size fits all for sleep. It's not like depending on the child, their temperament, what their sleep environment looks like, what their nap time looks like. All of these different factors play into sleep and healthy sleep hygiene. So I really dive deep in with the parents. I talk to them about daytime routine, nighttime routine, nap time, bedtime routine, everything, encompassing sleep, from there, I build a customized sleep plan, and then we work 2 weeks together to implement it. So I'm available by text anytime, and then we can schedule phone calls and chat as well.
I love that. And what ages do you, like for children, do you work with?
So I will not work with any child before 4 months, because that's really when their sleep cycles mature. So from 4 months on to up to 7 years old.
Awesome.
Which is also why it's so important you customize, because what a 6 month would need is different than what a 6-year-old would need, right? So
Yeah.
I really customize it. We set it based on what the parents are comfortable with too, and we work together and make sure your child develops healthy sleep habits and starts sleeping through the night.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that so much. I think that's a great resource that you offer. So that's so beautiful. Before you go, I wanted to see if you could share an affirmation for our mamas out there.
Yes, I would love to. I just want all the moms, all the new parents out there to know that you are beautiful, and every aspect of your identity is beautiful, and you can be all encompassing of everything you believe in yourself.
I love that. And I also love your handle, Mama You Can, together. I think that's so beautiful. So thank you so much, Ashley, for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved joining you, and I love your podcast, and thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, as you all who have followed us or are new to this, we end with that. You are loved, you are worthy, you are cherished, and we are proud of you. Until next time on the Pre-Pod. Bye.